In wealthier countries, one problem is our attitude to the way food should look when we buy it. Here's a clip from a report by BBC correspondent Mark Doyle. What do consumers in richer countries expect from their food?
Delegates to the conference in Sweden were told that about a quarter of the food we produce worldwide never reaches our plates. The way food is wasted varies. In richer countries, consumers expect their food to look so perfect that slightly blemished, though perfectly nutritious fruit and vegetables never reach the supermarkets. In poorer, developing countries, most of the waste is on farms. Inefficient farming techniques are part of the problem, and hot and humid conditions make storing crops difficult. Pests and diseases take their toll too.
News item 1.
The 49th World Snail Racing Championships took place this week in the town of Lagardère in southwest France. Listen to this first part of a report from BBC correspondent Chris Bockman.
A master of ceremonies dressed in drag launches the start of the races. Around 80 competitors place their snails on slippery tables with a red circle in the middle that acts as the starting point. The rules are pretty simple. The first snail that reaches the end of the table around 70 centimeters from the center goes into the playoffs with a final at the end. Under a searing heat of around 30 degrees centigrade, the snails, like humans, are a little sluggish.
In the second part of the report, we'll hear from Patrick Dubois, the mayor of the town.
After the competition, we sit down for a snail feast and eat 170 kilos of snails. We eat all of them, except for the winner, which I pardon, a bit like in bullfighting.
News item 2. Nigeria has for years suffered from the illegal siphoning off of large quantities of its oil production. The practice, known locally as bunkering, involves tapping into pipelines. The oil is then taken by barge tankers waiting offshore. These then ship the oil to international markets where it is sold. Now Nigeria's Trade and Industry Minister Olusegun Aganga says President Goodluck Jonathan has ordered the Navy and other arms of government to use satellite technology to track the tankers and seize them wherever these illegal shipments are taken. The Nigerian government says the illegal exploitation of the oil is currently costing the country $5 billion a year and is determined to end it. But the practice has gone on for years, with commentators suggesting that the Nigerian Navy has been involved and that smugglers are protected by senior politicians. Mr. Ganga insisted that these links can be broken and those responsible brought to justice. News item 3.
The vast majority of Antarctica is covered by ice, but the bits that aren't are beginning to be covered in plants, particularly the Antarctic Peninsula, the piece that runs up towards the southern tip of South America. It's seen rapid temperature rise in recent years, which is why the plants are taking hold. Now, an international research team has discovered how many of the seeds are getting there. As they describe in the journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, they frisked scientists and tourists visiting the White Continent and found that on average each is carrying nearly 10 seeds tucked away in boots and folds of clothing. Altogether, about 70,000 seeds are being carried onto the continent each year. The researchers say that in time, these species threaten to overwhelm Antarctica's ecology just as they have on islands offshore. They're advocating tighter checks on visitors. Even then, they say, increasing traffic to Antarctica combined with climate change means not all of the continent is going to stay white and pristine.
News item 4.
An app or application is what Professor Richard Wiseman from the University of Hertfordshire has developed to influence dreams. It plays specific sounds to you while you're sleeping. You select the sound and the phone automatically plays when it detects you're dreaming and by monitoring your movements. Let's hear a report from the BBC's John McManus.
Professor Wiseman says most people have about 5 dreams every night, but if they're pleasant, they can lead to people feeling more positive and being more productive during the day. A recent survey found that most people would choose sounds that prompted relaxing visions, perhaps set in woods filled with birdsong. Others, though, wanted some nighttime adventure. A successful experiment could lead to new ways of treating depression and stress. It may also enhance creativity. Paul McCartney was said to have woken from a dream with the Beatles' hit Yesterday going through his mind, and Mary Shelley was inspired by a dream to write the horror story Frankenstein. Most of us, of course, will be hoping for sweeter dreams than that.
News item 5.
Today we'll be talking about the American John Glenn.
Yes, John Glenn is a former astronaut.
That's right, he's a former astronaut. And he was also the first American to orbit the Earth. Reporting from Washington, here's Steve Kingston.
It was, of course, the Soviet Union that put the first man into orbit. But when John Glenn circled the Earth 3 times in 5 hours in February 1962, it marked America's return to the space race, paving the way for Neil Armstrong's moon landing 7 years later. On the 50th anniversary of that pioneering voyage, NASA had a surprise for Mr. Glenn, now a sprightly 90 years old.
We've got you loud and clear. Welcome aboard the International Space Station.
He was greeted in a live video call by today's astronauts orbiting the Earth, and the VIP guest was clearly impressed by the communications. John Glenn joked that he'd like to return to space, something he last achieved 14 years ago in his late 70s. This anniversary event was in part an effort to publicise NASA's achievements at a time when its budget is under threat.
This is the end of task 1. Now you have 2 minutes to check your answers.